Hello and welcome to this edition of Winsskins. I'm your host, Father Jim Korda. Winsskins features reflections on the lives of the saints and the sacred scriptures, along with thoughts on a variety of topics and issues from a Catholic perspective. It is brought to you by the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts, a division of the Society of St. Paul. On our show today, we will enjoy an interview that I have with Sister Joyce Candidi on the 75th anniversary of the Diocese of Youngstown. We will also look at the life and times of St. Terese of the Child Jesus, and we will also hear a reflection on the readings for this 26th Sunday in Ordinary Time. That and more coming up on Winsskins. In our current issue today, we will hear from Cindee Case, the Director of Youth and Young Adult Ministry.
It has been an exciting time around the Office of Youth and Young Adult Ministry. Last summer, 130 teenagers, 106 young adults in their 20s and 30s, 170 parents and family members, as well as 73 school and parish staffers, took time to respond to lengthy surveys about faith and vocational discernment. Dr. Peter Schaefer in the Office of Evangelization and I then analyzed the survey results to assist Bishop Murray in submitting a report to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops. The U.S. bishops then submitted a national report to the Vatican in preparation for the Synod of Bishops that will be taking place in just a couple of weeks. Some results of our diocesan surveys, as well as some other articles that have been part of the preparations for this October Synod, have been posted throughout the year on the Office of Youth and Young Adult Ministry blog site, which is linked to the diocesan website, www.doy.org. I ask all listeners to please pray for the continued success of the Synod, for the cardinals and bishops serving as delegates, as well as the 16 to 29-year-old youth speakers and consultants who will share stories, witnesses, and more survey results. May the Holy Spirit guide us all in the Church for a more vibrant Catholic faith that embraces the giftedness and talents of the youth and young adults. I'm so excited to see what the pastoral insights are that will result in the Synod report and how that will help shape our local outreach to teens and young adults in 2019 and beyond. If you were part of our diocesan surveys, thank you very much. In the meantime, our office is also busy being part of the celebration of the 75th anniversary of the diocese. Tonight in Canton will be the second anniversary youth mass at Christ the Servant Parish. Mass begins at 6:30 p.m., but you'll probably want to arrive early for seating and be sure to stay late for the social, as I know the snacks and fellowships will be exceptional because they were last month at our previous youth mass at St. Rose and Gerard. These celebrations give our faith communities a chance to show appreciation for the giftedness that teenagers bring to the Church. Another aspect of the 75th anniversary is the unveiling of a newly created confirmation retreat that parishes will use starting this year to help create a sense of unity around the diocese, as the candidates will spend some time discussing the same topics and praying some of the same prayers as they lead towards the sacrament. So, if you're a confirmation candidate, sponsor, or parent, or on a confirmation team, look for the One in the Spirit program, and may it help re-energize your sacramental preparation. In other news, we're currently registering high school teenagers for the biennial Diocesan Youth Convention taking place on Sunday, November 4th in Canton. It will be followed with a concert by Youth Convention speaker and singer, internationally recognized Jesse Manibusan. Jesse is also a composer, catechist, storyteller, and a humorist evangelizer. He appeals to children, teens, and adults. One of his best-known songs, Open My Eyes, is used at weekend liturgies in many of our churches. High school teens interested in the Diocesan Youth Convention should contact their parish youth leader, DRE, or pastor, or their Catholic high school campus minister this week to inquire about registering, as the deadline is quickly approaching. And people of all ages who might be interested in the Jesse Manibusan concert are welcome to join us. Again, it's on Sunday, November 4th at St. Michael the Archangel Parish in Canton. It starts at 7 p.m., and admission is free, but we will accept free will offerings. Invite your family members and friends to join you for this enjoyable evening of music and storytelling. If you have any questions about the Synod on youth, faith, and vocational discernment, the anniversary masses, the confirmation retreat program, the Diocesan Youth Convention, or the Jesse Manabusen concert on November 4th, please feel free to contact me at the Office of Youth and Young Adult Ministry. The phone number is 330-744-8451, or you can email me at ccase, that's C-Case, at youngstowndiocese.org. And of course, you can always look this information up on the diocesan website, www.doy.org, and remember to look for the Office of Youth and Young Adult Ministry. For Winsskins, this is Cindee Case.
To tell us more about the life and times of St. Terese of the Child Jesus is Ron Puhala. He is from Holy Family Church in Poland.
Saint Terese, popularly known as the Little Flower, died in Lisieux on September 30th, 1897, at the early age of 24, and was canonized in 1925. Born in Normandy, France, Terese was the youngest of 9 children. She was educated at the Benedictine monastery in Lisieux. After being cured of a serious illness through the intercession of the Blessed Virgin Mary in 1883, she suffered from scrupulosity for a time, but made a complete conversion in 1886 and tried in vain to enter the Carmel of Lisieux. She even pleaded personally with Pope Leo XIII during a pilgrimage to Rome, but to no avail. She finally succeeded in being admitted at the age of 15 in 1888. She was given the name Sister Terese of the Child Jesus and the Holy Face. In 1893, Terese was named Mistress of the Novices. In 1896, she had the first attack of tuberculosis, which would lead to her death in 1897. In the meantime, the prioress, Mother Agnes of Jesus, a blood sister of Terese, commanded her to write her memoirs, which were eventually published under the title Stories of a Soul. In this work, Terese expounds her doctrine of the little way of spiritual childhood, and in a very short time it was known throughout the world. She died in 1897, and in 1944 was declared co-patroness of France, together with St. Joan of Arc. She is also co-patroness of the foreign missions with St. Francis Xavier. In 1997, Pope John Paul II declared her a Doctor of the Church. In the Latin version of the Prayer over the Gifts, reference is made to an aspect of her spirituality, namely, her self-offering to God's merciful love. On the Feast of the Blessed Trinity, 1895, she offered herself to God as a holocaust of love, and she experienced a transport of love resembling the transverberation experienced by St. Teresa of Avila. Her fidelity in little things and her courageous spirit of sacrifice enabled her to transform even the periods of great sufferings into times of peace and joy. The prayer after communion touches another aspect of Teresa's spirituality. She prayed for the salvation of all humankind. For this reason, Pope Pius XI named her co-patroness of the foreign missions. In the Office of the Readings, we find this statement: "In the heart of the Church, my mother, I will be loved, and thus I will be all things as my desire finds its direction." She even promised that after her death, she would let fall a shower of roses. During the interrogation at her entrance into Carmel, she had stated that she entered Carmel for the salvation of souls, and especially to pray for priests. Later, she would have liked to go to Hanoi for a new foundation. The relevance of St. Terese of the Child Jesus is evident from the worldwide devotion to her immediately after her death. Pope Pius XI did not hesitate to say that she is the greatest saint of modern times. For Winsskins, I'm Ron Puhala.
Talking with Sister Joyce Candidi of the Oblate Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Sister, before we took a break, you were telling us about the congregations overseas and around the world. There are 2 communities here in the United States, correct?
Yes.
Tell us about those.
Well, we have, of course, the sisters here in the Youngstown Diocese at our Formation House in Hubbard. We have a sister who is working at the Priest Retirement Home in Louisville. And we have 2 sisters who are serving in the Joliet Diocese at a Priest Retirement Home. It's a little over 2 years now. It went from 5 priests. It was a home that was already established, but wasn't the most popular place. And now that the sisters are there and able to make it truly a home, a welcoming home, there are 13 priests there within 2 years.
Wonderful. Now, Sister, we know that religious communities, religious women and men, because of their founders or foundresses, have a particular, what we call charism, that really drives and leads and guides their community. Talk about the charism of your foundress and talk a little bit about her as well.
Okay. Well, Terese Cassini is our foundress. She was born in 1864 and founded the community in 1894. A young woman of a relatively coming from a high-class family, but always had that strong desire to want to give her life to God. And the Sacred Heart literally appeared to her in a vision and looking very sad and said, Teresa, give me holy priests. And being a young girl, of course, at the time, she was really puzzled by this and spoke to her spiritual director, and he said, ask the Lord, if it happens again, ask him more what he wants from you. And he said, it happened again, give me holy priests and offer your life in reparation for priests, for their holiness. So she thought that the Lord meant just for her to do it on her own. So that's what she did. And little by little, other women started to inquire and join her and wanted to do the same thing. And so little by little, the congregation was actually begun and founded in 1894. So today she's blessed, which means that she is one step away from being canonized, and the miracle that took place for that beatification that was, by the way, took place in 2015, occurred with one of our children, in 2002, who is now a young man in the seminary.
Well, those stories I think are always heartwarming, yes, especially when you can experience them so intimately as your community has.
Yes, yes.
Tell us about that experience, because I know many of us know about the miracle that took place that led to her beatification. So talk briefly about that and why your community is so steadfast in praying for her sainthood.
Well, we really believe, first of all, that Mother truly was a very holy woman. And saints today are for the church. They serve as models, as spiritual mentors. And she had a great love for the Lord, a great love for the church, and a great love for priests. And I think that is so important that all of us really need to appreciate and love the vocations that God has given to each one of us, whether it was the vocation to marriage or consecrated life or ordained priesthood. So I think that she's a great mentor and an example and model for the church today. And I think that you asked about the miracle. What happened was, this was in 2003. He was a little boy that was a student in our preschool. School was over and he was at kind of a family birthday party picnic in the evening and accidentally fell into the pool that was way in the back of the house. And Mom was looking for him to go home, couldn't find him. After a nurse and another woman there who was a nurse and her friend, one of her friends, a lifeguard, dove into the water and found him at the bottom of this pool. He was taken to Todd Children's Hospital, and his father called our sisters. Sister Terese, who is one of the sisters in Joliet, and another sister went to the hospital and began immediately to invoke and invite the family to invoke the intercession of our foundress. This was on a Wednesday. And on Friday, the Feast of the Sacred Heart, and we believe that there are no such thing as coincidences but providence, the boy started to come around. He wasn't in an induced coma. The doctor didn't want this, so increased the medicine. And it was the next day, I think, that was the plan to start to take him off the life support. The night of the accident, the doctor told the sisters and the parents, if the boy even lives through the night, you're not going to have the same boy. He was a pediatric trauma specialist from a Muslim from Cleveland Clinic. And of course the boy lived. And so Saturday morning, Mom's holding him. She said, may I hold my son? They said yes. And she was surrounded by 5 or 6 doctors and nurses because they were really there to help her should the boy have died as they took him off life support. As they're removing him, he opens his eyes and he says, Mommy, I'm hungry. And a group of medical personnel, some of the nurses even started to cry. They were just shaken by this. And with the joy and the excitement of the boy being okay, it wasn't until about 2 weeks later when Sister Teresina said to Sister Victoria, do you think there was a miracle there? And so she said, I think so, and then they got permission from the parents to speak to the doctor, and of course it's history.
Right.
But it took the church from 2003 until 2015 before it ended up on Pope Francis's desk in January, and he signed off on it. It was declared by the church as an official miracle.
Well, we still pray to her for her intercession for all of our needs, for sure.
Yes.
Let's talk about religious life here in the Diocese of Youngstown. Why do we celebrate it, and what should we lift up when we talk about religious life?
Yeah. I'm so proud of the religious in our diocese. I was just even in preparation for this interview today, I was looking at the Ursuline Sisters, for example, or the Humility of Mary. The Humility of Mary Sisters started here in, I think it was in 1864. I mean, they were, obviously this was part of the Cleveland Diocese, so they came over from France, I believe, and started to serve the church as early as 1864. The Notre Dames, the Ursuline Sisters, 1874, once again serving so faithfully in the Cleveland Diocese, which a part of that ended up being Youngstown Diocese. The religious in this country, in this diocese, have just served the church so beautifully in the areas of education, healthcare, social services, recognizing the needs of the people and then seeing what could they do in order to improve and meet those needs. It's a beautiful vocation. Oftentimes it's spoken that religious life is really at the heart of the church, very important.
For more information and to listen to Winsskins, visit the website of the Catholic Diocese of Youngstown at www.doi.org for more information. Stay with us. We'll be right back. After the Catholics of Warren stopped meeting in their homes and organized a structured parish, they used a former Episcopal church for their worship. St. Mary's Mission was established in 1837, yet the first resident pastor did not come to the parish until 1868. Other parishes quickly grew up in Trumbull County, including St. Stephen Niles in 1853, St. Patrick Hubbard in 1869, St. Vincent de Paul Vienna in 1871, now called St. Thomas the Apostle, and St. Rose Gerard in 1892. The other 15 parishes in the county were established after the turn of the 20th century. Congratulations, Catholic Diocese, for celebrating 75 years with pride in the past and faith in the future.
Church World Service believes that being self-reliant is a joy everyone should share. So around the block or around the world, share the joy.
In 1847, the parish of St. Columba was established. It would eventually become the Cathedral Church when the diocese was formed in 1943. It was the first parish in the city of Youngstown and in all Mahoning County. The first church built in 1851 was to be on land in Briar Hill that was donated by David Todd, who became the first and so far only governor from Mahoning County. A second church was built in 1864, and in 1897, the third church was erected on the site of the present cathedral. A tragic fire destroyed the cathedral in 1954, but by 1958, a new cathedral was dedicated which serves Catholics today. Congratulations, Catholic Diocese, for celebrating 75 years with pride in the past and faith in the future. Our music today is provided by the Daughters of St. Paul. It is from their CD called Sing Your Praise. And now I'll share my reflections on the readings for the 26th Sunday in Ordinary Time. Whoever is not against us is for us. Those were Jesus' words in today's Gospel. In other words, the truth of Jesus is larger than any of us and is totally beyond our understanding. Today's Scripture readings also remind us that when we limit the truth of Jesus, we set up borders that ultimately exclude others. In setting up those borders, we also limit the love and goodness of God Himself. We need to remember, like those early disciples, that the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ was for all people everywhere, not just for us, and not just for those who think or worship or act like us. We tend to carry that same thinking into the area of religion as well. To say that we are God's people sometimes conveys a feeling of superiority. People of religious integrity at times tend to establish borders that exclude people rather than include people. Edwin Markham once wrote this: "He drew a circle that shut me out, heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had a wit to win, we drew a circle and took him in." You see, the borders of God's love always extends beyond those we try to establish. As religious people, we practice exclusion in the name of God, whose love was inclusive. Jesus was constantly keeping company with those who lived on the other side of the establishment. Most often, God's borders extend way beyond our own vision. We were taught to love God above all else, and our neighbor as ourselves. Jesus extended that border to include one's enemies as well. Jesus did not claim a monopoly on His message of salvation. He welcomed all who did His work, even if they did not belong to His company. We have yet to learn the lesson of the inclusiveness of the Christian faith. Together, let us join Christ, who welcomes all people as companions on the road of faith, from all races, classes, genders, nationalities, and creeds. For Winsskins, I'm Father Jim Korda. Let us follow in the steps of our founder, Jesus Christ. We cannot walk with Him and remain little people with closed lives. His mind was open to all kinds of truth. His heart was open to all kinds of people. His was a true Catholic spirit. Winsskins is made possible through the annual Bishop's Appeal, the Catholic Communication Campaign, and St. Paul's Catholic Books and Gifts. Our program is produced by CTNY, the Catholic Telecommunications Network of Youngstown. I'm Father Jim Korda, thanking you for being with us today. Have a blessed week.